There is a kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises, no visible scars, no dramatic moment you can point to and say, "That's when everything broke." Instead, it's quieter than that. It's the absence of something that should have been there. Attention, warmth, understanding. And when you grow up without these things, you don't always realize what's missing. You just feel off, disconnected from yourself, unsure of your worth. Strangely empty, even when life seems fine. This is the invisible wound of emotional neglect. And unlike obvious trauma, it doesn't scream for attention. It whispers. Through self-doubt, through overthinking, through the constant feeling that something inside you was never fully seen. But here's the truth. What was not given to you can still be built within you. And when you begin that process, when you consciously rebuild yourself, everything changes. Emotional neglect is not always about what happened. It's about what didn't happen. No one taught you how to process your feelings. No one asked what you were going through. No one mirrored your inner world back to you. So you learned to adapt. You became independent early. You stopped expressing certain emotions. You convinced yourself you didn't need much. But deep down, there was a quiet longing to be understood, to be valued, to feel like your emotions mattered. And when that need isn't met, you don't just move on. You internalize it. You begin to believe, my feelings are not important. I am too much, or not enough. I have to figure everything out alone. These beliefs don't just stay in childhood. They shape your relationships, your decisions, your sense of identity. And without awareness, they become your reality. One of the deepest effects of emotional neglect is self-disconnection. You lose touch with your own emotions, not because you don't have them, but because you were never taught how to recognize them. So instead of feeling clearly, you feel vaguely. Anxiety without a clear cause, sadness without a clear story, restlessness without direction. And this creates confusion because you're searching for answers externally when the signals are coming from within. But those signals feel unfamiliar, almost like a language you were never taught. So you ignore them, or suppress them, or distract yourself from them. And over time, you become a stranger to yourself. When your true self isn't acknowledged, you create a version of yourself that is. This is what can be called the false self, the version of you that is acceptable, predictable, easy to manage. You become who others need you to be, the strong one, the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who doesn't cause problems. And this identity works. It helps you navigate the world. It earns you approval. It keeps things stable. But it comes at a cost. Because while the false self is being seen, the real you remains hidden, unexpressed, unexplored, unlived. And this creates a deep inner tension, a sense that you are performing your life instead of actually living it. At some point, something shifts. It might be a relationship that doesn't work, a period of burnout, a sudden emotional collapse, or simply a quiet realization. I don't feel like myself. This is the beginning of awakening. Not dramatic, not loud, but undeniable. You start to question your patterns, your reactions, your choices. You begin to see the gaps, the places where something should exist but doesn't. And instead of ignoring it, you become curious. This curiosity is powerful because it opens the door to something new. Self-awareness. Rebuilding yourself begins with something simple, yet incredibly difficult. Learning to feel, not intellectually, not analytically, but emotionally. Allowing yourself to experience what is already there. At first, this can be overwhelming, because when emotions have been suppressed for a long time, they don't come back gently. They come all at once. Sadness you never processed, anger you never expressed, fear you never acknowledged. And your instinct may be to shut it down, to distract yourself, to return to old habits. But this is the moment that matters most, because every time you allow yourself to feel, without judgment, without avoidance, you rebuild trust with yourself. You send a message inward. My emotions are valid. I am safe to experience myself. And slowly, the numbness begins to fade. One of the most transformative steps in healing is learning to give yourself what you never received. This is often called reparenting. But at its core, it is self-responsibility with compassion. You begin to treat yourself differently. You listen to your needs. You validate your feelings. You create boundaries that protect your energy. You become the support system you never had. And this is not easy because it requires consistency. It requires patience. And most of all, it requires you to believe that you are worth caring for, even if no one showed you that before, especially then. Emotional neglect doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects how you behave. You may struggle to express your needs. You may attract emotionally unavailable people. You may avoid conflict or fear intimacy. These patterns are not random. They are adaptations, ways of navigating a world where your emotional needs were not met. But what once protected you can now limit you. So rebuilding yourself means recognizing these patterns and choosing differently. Speaking up when you would normally stay silent. Setting boundaries where you would normally overextend. Allowing closeness where you would normally withdraw. At first, this feels unnatural, even uncomfortable. But that's because you're breaking cycles. And every time you choose a new response, you create a new path. Healing requires space, not isolation, but intentional solitude. Time away from external noise. Time to reflect. Time to reconnect. Because when you've spent your life focused outward, on others' needs, others' expectations, you need to turn inward. And in that quiet space, you begin to rediscover yourself, your preferences, your values, your voice. This is where clarity emerges, not from constant activity, but from stillness. One of the deepest wounds of emotional neglect is the belief that you are not worthy of attention, not worthy of care, not worthy of love. And this belief can be subtle. It doesn't always show up as self-hatred. Sometimes it shows up as settling, accepting less than you deserve, staying in situations that drain you, minimizing your own needs, because somewhere inside, you don't believe you deserve more. Rebuilding yourself means confronting this belief, not with force, but with evidence. Every time you set a boundary, you affirm your worth. Every time you prioritize your well-being, you reinforce it. Every time you choose yourself, you strengthen it. And over time, this belief begins to shift. As you continue this process, something begins to change. The gap between who you are and who you present to the world starts to close. You become more authentic, more grounded, more aligned. You no longer need to perform because you are no longer hiding. And this integration brings a sense of peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you are whole. You are no longer fragmented. You are no longer disconnected. You are yourself. As you rebuild yourself, your relationships begin to change, not because others have changed, but because you have. You become more selective, more aware of what you tolerate, more honest about what you need. And this can lead to shifts. Some relationships will deepen, others will fade. Because not everyone is aligned with the person you are becoming. And that's okay, because the goal is not to keep everyone. The goal is to build connections that reflect your truth. Rebuilding yourself is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process. There will be moments of clarity and moments of doubt, progress and setbacks. But every step you take, every moment of awareness, every act of self-compassion moves you forward. And over time, the person you are becoming feels more real than the person you once were. So, how do you rebuild yourself after emotional neglect? You start by noticing, by becoming aware of what was missing and how it shaped you. You continue by feeling, by allowing yourself to experience what you once suppressed. You grow by choosing, by breaking old patterns and creating new ones. And you transform by showing up for yourself again and again. Because healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be before you learned to hide. And when you finally meet that version of yourself, you realize that you were never empty. You were just waiting to be found.